Wonderful. So we're going to briefly take a look to our town hall agenda before we start. So we're going to start with welcome and introductions from the team. Then we're going to move on to annual survey and updates on books, and that will be covered by our early literacy and book procurement team. Then we're going to move on to progress reports, January 2023, site visits, updates, and highlights that will be covered by the medical engagement team. And we're going to open it up to questions. For the self-care part, we are aware that self-care is a very personal thing to do. You probably have heard so much already during the close down. So, however, we just want to provide you guys with some tips to make your Reach Out and Read site run more smoothly. We're going to open it up to comments. You guys are experts on your sites. And then we're going to move on to the activity time, breathing exercise. And we're going to take a break from our day, and then we're going to move on to closing remarks. Are there any questions before we start? Wonderful. So we're going to move on to team introductions. So hello again, everybody. My name is Jessie Lucio, and I'm the Senior Manager of Medical Engagement. I assist sites with connections and support, providing training opportunities to medical professionals. I get to network and see you guys during site visits, and you probably have heard a lot of me already with emails and stuff with progress reports and site visits. So again, welcome everybody, and I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Nardine.
Well, hello everyone. Happy Friday. I am Nardine and I'm also on the medical engagement team. So I am very blessed to get to work with every one of you every day and get to hear about the fantastic work that you do at sites. So we'll be hearing soon from me about progress reports a few slides later, but just wanted to say hello and welcome. I'm passing it on to Carrie.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here with you all. I'm Carrie Kerjack, the Senior Manager of Literacy and External Affairs with Reach Out and Read of Greater New York. We've got some book updates and some book survey updates later on, so I'm excited to share with you then. And I'll pass it to Patricia.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia Phillips. I am the Program and Office Associate. I'm excited to see you all today and excited to share some updates with you. Passing on to Emily.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Marchese. I'm the Executive Director of Reach Out and Read of Greater New York, and very much looking forward to chatting with you this afternoon. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, everybody. And we also want to introduce our newest team members. So Christina, if you could take it away.
Hi, all. So happy to be here. Christina DiBartolo, in week 2 as the Senior Manager of Development here at Reach Out and Read of Greater New York. So happy to be able to be connected, be here with all of you and learn so much about your incredible work. Prior to joining RRGNY, I was the manager of annual giving, actually at a small college in New Jersey. And prior to that, I have experience in nonprofit fundraising in DC. So really excited to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Christina. Okay, and with that, we're going to start our presentation. So we're going to start with Reach Out and Read of Greater New York annual survey.
Happy to jump in. Thank you all. We've done this the past 2 years where we really needed a little bit more information when thinking about a book procurement that we're involved in. So we sent out a Google Forms annual survey. I'm happy to say that we got a lot of responses to that survey. We're really asking all sites to complete this because it gives us more information on specifically your book storage capacity and verifying that that shipping address is accurate. This gives us the best information possible that we can then provide to publishers that we work with for procuring books and making sure that we're shipping to the right location and we're shipping you guys the right amount of books. So like I said, we got a great response to that. However, if you have not completed that survey yet, there'll be a link in this PowerPoint here that you see that we can follow up with. And we can also put it in the chat, I guess, in a moment. I can do that. But again, if you haven't completed that form yet, we ask that you fill it out. We have some great book updates on the next slide here, and all those book updates are pertain to you as long as you completed the survey. Again, just kind of ask for this one last compilation of complete addresses and complete storage capacities so that we can best provide books. So I will pass it then to Patricia to take it to our next slide, which is more excitement about the book purchases that we've been able to do recently.
Yes, I'm so excited to provide this update on books. We've had a huge donation from Scholastic. They've donated over 12,000 books. Those books have been dispersed to sites. Many of you might have received it in November. We also have a large book order that is currently being shipped from All About Books. This is approximately 43,000 books. So I've been emailing you guys between yesterday and today. You are receiving emails from me with tracking information for those books. So we expect for them to be within these next 2 weeks completely sent out to you all. We also have some announcements, some updated books be coming in from Jumping Cow. And we're excited because though we have multiple languages coming out to you guys. So that should be shipped to sites late December. Also an order from Encantos. We are hoping to get that out to you all by mid-January. And lastly, Barefoot Books will be shipping out in January, and that is over 120,000 books. So I'm so excited for your families to receive these books and they'll get to enjoy them. I love to get photos and hear updates from you guys. But again, I am excited for this.
Wonderful. And I might just give a little bit more of a peek into our book procurement process, since that is of great interest to everyone on this call, I'm sure. Some of these book orders take months to get in. So actually the Barefoot books, we were in discussions with that in June, and we did a separate print run of these books. So they're now coming in late December, January is when they will be shipping. So we've got some that take a long time. All About Books was an order that we kind of got together really quickly. And if you haven't received notice of some of these orders, that's probably because they were smaller orders and we just looked at sites that we had book needs at that point. So for the All About Books book order or the Jumping Cow book order, we were looking at language needs. So don't worry if you weren't included on some of these smaller orders. We have to look at book need for all of our sites, and we then take that into consideration when we're looking at what books we have to distribute to which locations now. So keep letting us know if you're running low on books, and we'll be able to fit you into either a donation that we have coming up or the next book order that we have going out.
Thank you so much, team. I'm going to stop right here to see if anybody has any questions for our book procurement team before we move to the next slide. Okay, wonderful. So we're going to move on to progress reports, January 2023.
I think before we move on, we just got a question in the chat. Tannery asking, do we no longer order via the site?
So I'm not sure how it worked in the past, but sometimes there were different accounts that we would put money into, whether it was a Scholastic account or 2 years ago, we had a First Book account that we put money into, where the sites, you as coordinators then went in and were able to spend down on that dollar amount that was in your account. That's not something we've looked at to do this year. We're looking mainly at Greater New York using our, yes, via Scholastic. That is a strategy that we've used in the past. We've looked at our book procurement budget and the capacities we have, and we've found that we can make that budget stretch the most when we do these bulk orders. So that's how we're able to get Barefoot Books over 120,000 books at a really great price and be able to stretch that budget as far as possible. So that's our strategy for this next year moving forward, is to look at those bulk purchases. So that's why the survey is important, and we'll be communicating constantly with you guys to make sure that you know, here's the book orders that are coming through, here's the ones that are in process, and here's when you can expect the next delivery. So thank you for your question.
Fantastic. And I think the smooth transition here would tell me that since a lot of books are coming our way, that means tracking those books is really important. And I'm trying to make it exciting, even though we know that it's, a lot of commitment and work that we truly deeply appreciate from our sites. Just a brief update about progress reports, because as you may know, progress reports are launched twice a year. It's the main way we collect all of our data from sites, whether it's information about your book distribution, your book need, the number of well-child visits that take place within the 6 months leading up to the launch of the progress report. So the one being launched in January, that will be reporting on the 6 months prior, starting July to December. And so it's really important not only for us to, fundraise and make sure that we're having that funding to continue procuring books for our sites, but also to know how to distribute these books and best support you. So the July progress reports closed strong. We had 84% completion rate. The goal is to always get as close as we can to the 100% completion rate, because that means we have all of our sites reporting on the need and the numbers they foresee. And the upcoming progress report will be launching in January. You will definitely hear from me as always, whether it's email reminders. We will set up during July. We actually had two-hour office hours that were open and live. Jesse and I were there to answer any questions you might have. We're also available via email and phone calls if needed, but really take advantage of this time, because we're there to help you and answer any questions you might have to make it as smooth of a process as it can be. And we really appreciate those numbers. I can't emphasize this enough. So please let us know if you have any questions about the progress report completion. If you're a new coordinator at your site, if you're not sure what kind of information is needed, the progress report is always on my ROR. So by logging into your account, once the progress report is made live, you would see that the very first page you log in, and it will tell you start that progress report. But again, during the office hours, an informational email that I'll be sending out, there will be a lot more information walking you through that process. And I think on the note of progress report, just to gauge how people are feeling about it. I know we're still in December, we're looking forward to the holidays, but just to get a sense of how everyone is feeling about progress report, at least on this call, we have a brief Zoom poll that we're gonna put on the screen now. So it's just asking if you are confident that either you or someone else at your site will be able to complete the January progress report on time. And this is just to encourage you that if you think you're not sure what the progress report is, or if you're not sure who's going to be completed, please feel free to reach out to us. That's why we're here, to support you and guide you through the process. I already see numbers coming in and we're looking a lot stronger at the yes, so that's really exciting. But also no pressure nor intimidation. We completely know that new people come in, and the progress report sometimes has tricky questions. So if there's anything that's confusing, again, please feel free to reach out to us, and we're always happy to support you. I will give it a few more seconds, but I already see quite a few responses coming in, and it's looking great. So I see numbers stabilizing. So I guess if we don't have any more responses, I can end the poll and share results just so everyone can see. I'm not sure if people can see the results now, but everyone is feeling confident. So that's a great sign. And that doesn't mean that you still can't reach out and ask us, or just come by the office hours, chat with us. We love to see you. We love to answer questions, even if it's not specifically regarding the progress report, but we're always here and happy to support you. So I will stop sharing now just to make sure that we can move to the next slide. And looking ahead to more exciting stuff about site visits.
Thank you, Nardine. Before we move on, I see 2 questions in the chat. So actually, Carrie. Okay, thank you so much, Carrie. Great. So we're going to move on to the next slide. So thank you, Nardine. So moving on to highlights from our site visits, we're going to briefly touch base on the Reach Out and Read of Greater New York mission, the importance of having well-trained medical providers and coordinators, the importance of having organized books and tracking book distribution, and having a literacy-rich waiting room area. And of course, remind you guys that we are here to help with any questions or concerns. So again, we want this to be as interactive as possible. Feel free to unmute, put questions in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to support. So the Reach Out and Read mission.
Question. With COVID, we removed the books from the waiting room because we don't want mixed handling.
Of course.
Yes. And that's very, very common. I just have to say, probably like everyone on this chat or almost everyone on the Zoom are like nodding their head, I ask, because we're hearing that from a lot of our sites and we completely understand. So the goal is to get to this literacy rich area. Some sites have found it helpful to have like laminated posters on the walls or things to swap for those books. Of course, it's not the same, but we completely understand that infection control measures are a priority and the safety of both our medical professionals, site staff, and the patients comes before anything else. And also an acknowledgement just for the extremely challenging time that we know everyone is facing at their clinics now. It's no longer just COVID, that triple-demic is very much real. So we just want to shout out and acknowledge all the work that's happening. And there's absolutely no expectation that everything is, the same as pre-pandemic. We understand that changes had to happen. And that's completely normal. And a lot of times, even during our site visits or when reporting during the progress report, you're able to just give us that note, hey, we used to have this in the past, we're no longer able to have it, but here's, for example, a plan that in the next couple of months we might try to bring different things, whether it's posters or other forms of literacy rich areas. But I can assure you that a lot of our sites are experiencing that. So I hope that's helpful and reassuring, if anything.
Thank you so much, Nardine. And yes, we're going to cover a lot of that during our presentation today. So thank you so much for that question. So we're going to move on to the Reach Out and Read mission. So Reach Out and Read prepares America's youngest children to succeed in school by partnering with medical providers to prescribe books and encourage families to read together. We build on the unique relationship between parents and medical providers to develop essential early literacy skills in young children via the existing health infrastructure. So, of course, all of us should be super familiar with the mission of Reach Out and Read. However, I just wanted to put it in our presentation today to remind you that the mission is so powerful. We are aware of the limited time that you guys have with during the Well Child visit. However, Reach Out and Read is here to serve as a tool to help you connect more with families and empower them. So we wanted just to remind you, as Nardine said, big shout out to all of you, site coordinators, medical providers for making this happen, even after a pandemic that's still going on. And we want to remind you that you are empowering families when you're providing a diverse book. You're empowering families when you're providing the early literacy strategies that they need. And you're empowering families when you use early relational health to comment on the beautiful relationship between caregiver and child. So I'm going to stop right here. So any comments, observations after reading the mission before we move on to the next slide? And again, we have all of the research behind us too. So we have, because you guys prescribe books to families, families are twice more likely to read to their children at home. So we have the research behind us, but beyond the positive impact and early childhood development, families use Reach Out and Read as a tool to also nurture those beautiful relationships at home. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys are reminded of that, of the power of Reach Out and Read and the beautiful work that you guys are doing. I see a question on the chat. How do we go how do we go by update the provider information on the site? Okay, wonderful. So that's a wonderful question. And again, we're here to help. And please, you can shoot us an email. We can connect and provide you that information, but that's very easily done through my ROR, and we can guide you through it as needed. Okay, we're going to move on to the next slide. Wonderful. So again, if you have not heard this, we have started site visits again. If you have not yet, you should be receiving an email in January 2023 to schedule a site visit either in person or virtually. So why are site visits so important? You know, it helps us. The previous question was just perfect. Communication with Richard and Reed staff, making sure that we are helping you, updating my ROR as needed to help you with any questions that you guys may have. Of course, we also love to go over progress reports. I thank Nardine for going in depth with our next upcoming progress report. We go over books, book distribution, and of course, book tracking as well, and how to take advantage of the feasible opportunities to include literacy-rich environment in the waiting room area. Being mindful, of course, of all the guidance from the CDC and the guidance that you may have from your site. And of course, the percentage of training. So when we go visit you, we expect at least 75% of medical providers to be trained. We know that this number fluctuates throughout the year, but our goal is to have 100% training by the end of the year. So that we're gonna explain later why is it so important for you guys to like update. If there's a new contact coming in, log it in into my ROR, but if there's someone leaving, especially with residents coming in and going, it's so important to delete those contacts so those numbers do not reflect on the final number in my ROR. I'm going to stop right there. Are there any questions for us? Wonderful. So this was going to be a Zoom poll, but we decided to change it up and just ask the question to you guys. We want to be in touch with you guys, with the sites, and we are aware of scheduling constraints and of course the ongoing guidance from the CDC. We're being mindful of that as well. However, we want to hear from you. So if you guys could share with us via chat or unmute yourselves and just let us know, would you prefer your site visit to take place in person or virtually?
In person. I want to see all those beautiful faces that I get to see in this tiny little screen. I want to see them here in person.
Thank you, Claudia. And if you guys can add to like, you know, why is it important for us to like go visit the site? Like, please, we want to hear from you. Any comments? We want to see you guys as well. And we want to see you guys in person. So we're going to start scheduling those site visits January coming up for the upcoming year. But any other comments, any other
I think it's very important that you guys do come in person. This way you guys get a visual of, you know, you get to know the providers, get to know the
reporting. And we're going to move on to the next slide. Great. So now we're going to go a little bit more in depth of why training is so important. So of course, my ROR does a beautiful job with the training. It states very well the understanding of the mission and navigating through my ROR, provides research for Richard and Reed and early relational health, and how you can use Richard and Reed program to deepen relationships with family. So again, we're aiming for that 100% training of all medical providers. We also are providing live training for residents. So you could schedule with us if needed by sending us an email, and we can coordinate as needed. So if your site is interested, please shoot us an email and we'll love to coordinate with you. But yeah, so this is the main idea of like providing training to you guys. Are there any questions regarding training now? So the main training resource is my ROR. However, we are providing live training for residents. Try to like summarize it a little bit, especially they're there just for a couple of months, and we're going to provide in-depth training when we go visit the site as well. But are there any questions for us before we move on? Okay, wonderful. So then we're gonna move on to the next slide, which is organizing books and book storage. So as Channery said, we had the pleasure to visit a couple of sites in East Harlem and Queens back in November. Some of the pictures here, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Stopler for Borique Neighborhood Health Center, Dr. Rosenblum from Theresa Lang Children's Health Center, and Dr. Woolever from Elmhurst Hospital. So what you guys can see here in the picture are beautifully organized books organized on a shelf. But more than that, they're organized by age, they're organized by language. They're accessible for the medical providers before running into the well child visit. We know how hectic it can be, how busy you guys get. So that's why it requires teamwork from the site coordinators, from the medical providers to make it happen. On the bottom right picture, you guys can see the cabinets. This was taken from Elmhurst Hospital that they use for the remaining books so that it's not overwhelming and you have a bunch of books in the shelf and then you guys can take them as needed. We are aware that this is hard work and it could depend on storage capacity of the site. We have heard that medical providers get involved in the organizing, but of course we could not do this without the help of our beautiful site coordinators and volunteers that make this happen. But I want to hear from you guys. What are you guys using at your site to storage books? Are you using similar things or using different things? I would love to hear from you guys.
So we have it similarly organized for the doctors in which they're labeled by age and by language. And then in terms of our storage to replenish the books that are currently being used in the cabinets, we have different closets near the clinic, so that way we don't have to run into the problem of, oh my God, we ran out of 9 months and we have to go all the way to the other building where our storage room is. So we try to keep enough stack nearby the clinics so that way we can replenish. Also, we try to have a rotation system in which we use a title for some time and then we have the next one for that same age group will be a different title. So that way we keep the doctors engaged and excited about going to the cabinet and seeing new titles. And we're less likely also to have families saying, we already have that book at home because they have multiple children and they have received the same titles again and again. So.
That's amazing, Claudia. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I really like that the title option for the families and the fact that you guys keep the medical providers engaged. Thank you so much for sharing. And Nardine, are there any comments in the chat? Again, everybody.
A lot of comments coming through, and I think people are using some similar techniques of whether it's closets or storage area, making sure that, you know, they are organized by age groups or languages. I see even more comments coming in, but I think there's definitely a lot of agreement here.
That's wonderful. And yes, this is why one of the many reasons we would love to see your site. We make it happen, even with the constraints. If we're doing a virtual site, if you guys can let us tour the site virtually, I know it's a little bit different and more difficult, but at least, or see some pictures of your storage capacity, how you guys are organizing the books. But this is all great. Again, this meeting is for you guys, so it's wonderful to hear all of the similarities and all of the sites with organizing the books and the book storage. So thank you so much for participating. Okay, we're gonna move on to the next slide. We're gonna jump in with tracking book distribution. So this is a big one. Some sites are tracking books manually, and they're doing it very successfully. And then they save them for their records in the future. So as you guys can see, the site on the left, they're using a tracking sheet and they're including date, patient's name, date of birth, book title, and then the staff initials. And for what we've heard, it's been very, very successful. Other sites, they're using electronic medical records, if it's available on their site, of course. And so, for example, using Epics or eClinical, we have received good feedback from Epic. So we know this could be a challenge, especially because you will have to work up with your IT team from the side, and this could take months. But if it's something possible and feasible for you guys to do, this could be another great way of tracking books by adding a question to the Well Child Visit question list that you're already procuring during the Well Child Visit. And we see that this is a benefit because then you could retrieve the report at any time that you may need those numbers, especially when progress reports are due. Again, we have heard beautiful feedback from both. But again, I'm going to open it up to the audience and see what are you guys doing at your site and how helpful that is, and how much time it requires on your end. Nardine, do we have anything on the chat?
We do. We have January also saying that they track it by numbers, meaning the number of books distributed.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Channery. Anybody else? Any similarities? Anything that you guys may be doing different at your site? Okay, so then we're gonna move on to the next slide, which is the waiting room space. This is one of my favorite ones. So again, you guys, thank you for indulging me and letting me see your beautiful site and the beautiful waiting room areas that you guys had. So we want to promote a literacy-rich environment in the waiting room area. Every site is different, and we want to be mindful of all of the guidances from the CDC and infection control. So we just wanted to give you different scenarios. So as Nardine mentioned before, like we have sites with like laminated posters in the waiting room area, or like other sites that have like maybe like pamphlets that are given out at the end of the visit. There could be community resources, library resources. We have library information, tips, milestones. So all of that is super helpful for families, especially if they're there waiting a little bit before the Well Child Visit begins, so that they can take some very good tips before they go home. The second picture, shout out to Amherst Hospital. So this is a very interactive waiting room. They encourage children to go into a small scavenger hunt with their caregiver while they're sitting down and waiting for their Well Child Visit, so that they can see body parts, they can count, they can look at colors, they can look at shapes. So this is a wonderful way of engaging, of course, caregivers and children, and kind of like getting them excited for the Well Child Visit. The next picture to the right, we have Dr. Kellogg's office and Dr. Kellogg's site near City Health and Hospitals metropolitan area at East Harlem. And we have beautiful art in the waiting room. You can see in the middle, there's a little poster with tips for reading from Reach Out and Read. But again, very, very visual, beautiful artwork in the site, and with a small table in which children can sit down, read a book, and families can talk to their children about the animals, the sizes, the colors. They can count with their children, so keeping them entertained. And last but not least, we have Teresa Lam Children's Center. So they had beautiful artwork. I just picked this one picture. I thought it would be worth sharing with you guys today, because as the child or infant is laying down for their examination, they can see the artwork on the ceiling too. So I just thought this was wonderful, just to relax, to make sure that they are relaxed and they are basically having a fun time during the Well Child Visit. So I just wanted to share some of my observations during site visits, but I want to hear from you guys. Are you guys doing anything similar, different in your waiting room areas? Do you guys have laminated posters? Are you guys using pamphlets for resources? What is your site doing? And again, feel free to unmute yourself or use the chat option. Nardine, any comments from this?
Yeah, I know Dr. Kokotis was admiring the creativity of sites. That's the only thing that came in so far. And keep them coming. I know we're pretty close on time, so also feel free to keep the chat coming or giving us your comments. I think the biggest thing of this is like people sharing their ideas with each other and inspiring one another. So again, just thank you for allowing us to see all the beautiful work.
Thank you. I see Claudia. Claudia, would you like to say
Yes,
anything?
no, it looks so beautiful. I wish we could do the same here at Bellevue, paint our walls and have that kind of like really child friendly environment. The way that we do it here is we do have a parent resource corner where we offer you know, some handouts for the parents, where we have posters, where we have books for the children to take home that have been donated to the program. But I love to see all the colors that the other sites have. So congratulations to those sites for making it so appealing for the families.
Thank you so much, Claudia. No, and I love that you guys provide the resources to the families, and you guys have a corner that is friendly for families to go and see what they need at the end of the Well Child visit. So that's wonderful as well. Okay, and then with that, we're gonna go to the next slide, which is just a quick reminder. We're here to assist as needed to answer any questions you may have. So again, this is a quick slide we're gonna share with you guys at the end of the town hall. Our names, our emails, in case that you guys have any questions, and we're also gonna provide some resources. And with that, I'm just gonna stop for a few minutes, just for a few seconds to see if anybody has any questions before we move on.